Hi, Ignacio.
Oh, hello.
Hola, Ignacio.
We're going to start it in like a few more minutes and then we'll get going. We're just waiting for a few more people to hop in. And Lidia Mercado.
Oh, let this watch it.
El prócer.
Okay. Looks like we're going to have a good crowd. Good.
Good. We're just waiting.
Okay, let's get started. Thank you everybody for showing up today. Good evening. My name is Carlos Hernandez. I'm the Executive Director and founder of the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance. I want to thank you all for taking the time out from your busy schedules and joining us for this special announcement. The Juan and Gladys Mendez Music Hall naming, which was really an idea that was generated by our very own staff prior to Juan Mendez's passing. I just wanted to mention that this is something that our staff had come up with a few years back ago. So we're just actually putting it together. As many of you know, Juan Mendez spent over 10 years at the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance. Much of that was as our board chair. But before we get to any of that, we want to thank everybody again for being part of this. And we have our own very own board chair, Manuel Cueva Tristan, which I want to introduce. Manuel has a few words before we get started. Manuel?
Thank you very much, Carlos. Buenas tardes a todos. An absolute pleasure to be here. I just want to make sure you can hear me.
Yes.
Sí, sí.
Thank you very much. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here. And when organizing this event, Carlos encouraged me to say a few things and share some impressions about my experience with Juan, which frankly it wasn't as extensive as maybe some of you who have had a longer relationship with Juan. And certainly I want to acknowledge before I begin, saying again my impressions from limited but very impactful experience with Juan. I want to acknowledge Gladys Mendez, who's present. Gladys, it's just wonderful to see you and continue to see you engaged with CRA and with this beautiful community. I also want to acknowledge other members of the board who are present, in particular Ignacio. It's great to see you join as always. And I don't know if there are other members who have joined, but special salute to all of them, and certainly to Carlos, who's the heart and soul of this organization. So Carlos suggested that I say a few things both on a personal level and on a institutional level in terms of his leadership style. But on a personal level, my own memories of Juan, que en paz descanse, go to my very first meeting with him and with Carlos when they invited me to join, and it was very evident from that very first meeting, just a couple of things that were very very salient about Juan. Number one, it was his kindness. It was a person who had an extraordinarily kind heart, somebody who exudes benevolence and goodness. Number two, I thought it was very very clear that it was somebody who was at the same time very proud of his origins, proud of his accomplishments, proud of his family, but very proud of his origins. Right? He was somebody that wore his Puerto Rican heart and his Puerto Rican soul on his sleeve, and that was something that just drew me immediately to him and made me want to get involved. So he was at once proud but also very humble. He knew where he came from. He never forgot where he came from, and always wanted to give back to the people who also had humble origins and want to better themselves and contribute to the community. He was also a person of profound personal and professional integrity. And Tato was mentioning about some client that was mentioning how Juan may have been handling a particular case, and I have no doubt that I was with the highest ethical standards, highest professional standards, and always looking out for the best interest of his clients, and in his dealings with Pra and with all of us, there was always that sense of high principle and high integrity that was very inspiring. And as board chair, it's something that you always want to measure up to that particular high standard. He was deeply committed, not just to his family, but to his extended family and his friendships, to the artists and instructors and the staff of Pra. He was just deeply committed to that mission, and view his own role as that of deputy for Puerto Rican culture and Puerto Rican and Latin artistic and cultural heritage. So again, those are at a personal level. He was always talking about the power of love and how between the love for the arts is something that always brings people together rather than tear people apart. And to him, he saw Pra as a unifying force of the community in Chicago, not just for Puerto Ricans, but for everyone in the surrounding community. So that's something that immediately drew me to him, and it was instant and trust builder. As a leader, I think he was a unifier. He somebody that drew people in, somebody who always saw the big picture. He didn't just look at Pra as a local nonprofit organization that exercises a particular mission, but he always saw the potential, not just in each of the members of our staff, and certainly in Carlos and his commitment to the cause, but just the broader contribution that Pra could achieve in the community. And we're seeing extraordinary development and support from the government, from the community, and I think we're seeing even through the pandemic extraordinary growth and recognition in normal part due to that broader vision that he always brought, but certainly to the leadership of Carlos and the support of people like you who are joining us in events of this kind. And he was just always deeply committed to Pra, its mission of preserving the heritage on the one hand, but uniting people through the arts. So that's, I think those are just my brief impressions. I could go on and talk forever, but I'm just particularly honored to follow in his footsteps that are certainly larger and have a much longer legacy than mine, but it's something worth aspiring to. I want to thank again Gladys to be here in representation of Juan, his legacy and the family, and to thank you for just it's not just Juan, it's Juan and the family, right? And Juan and Gladys were and have always been a unit. And in our hearts you remain a unit, and we're thankful for your presence here today, and for inspiring us, because we were tested during the pandemic, and thankfully with the support from board members, from all of you, and Carlos, we've been able to pull through and hopefully continue to be a strong presence, and we're just deeply honored to be able to name the music hall in your and Juan's name. So with that, I'll turn it over to Carlos, and again, give you a heartfelt thank you. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Manuel. Can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Manuel Cuevas is our board chair at the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance. I know we have Ignacio here. Ignacio, would you like to say a few words? If you can.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Ignacio.
Not to say too much, but just to echo everything that Manuel mentioned. I too have a lot of memories when first onboarding with the Puerto Rican Art Alliance. I can't remember if it was 4 or 5 years ago now, but I remember going to IHOP and sitting with him, and he being very intentional to speak about, like what Manuel was saying, that our organization is about inspiring and about really lifting, our students, our staff, our community. And he made it a very clear point that this is not political, right? And he kept drawing that in, that our work is about this mission and this cause to really be of support, to be of giving, and to be mainly of love and mentoring, right? And we see a lot of that today. And I do want to just say that, that's something that I personally taken just from his guidance and his own mentoring, and in the work that I do now as a leader at the university, where we want to bring that sort of mentoring philosophy to life, because there's always folks that are struggling, and we want to be able to sort of identify those wraparound services that really will lift our students and support our staff, which ultimately, drives to having broader impact, not only for individuals, but for communities as a whole. So just a really beautiful person, and always have been inspired by him. And one of the main reasons why I'm here today is because of him and his leadership and his guidance. So always somebody near and dear to my heart, and just so grateful that we're able to dedicate our space for him and in recognition of him, so that his name will continue to live on. And so grateful to our other board members and to Carlos as well for his leadership in all the work that we do. So thank you all so much for being here today, and just a great day. So happy to be celebrating Juan and the family, Gladys, and everybody. It's so great to see you. So
thank you, Ignacio. We have a short video we'd like to show you, and I want to apologize in advance in case there's some streaming problems, but it's a video about our students and the music that they produce here, and it's something that Juan dearly supported. So let's take a couple of minutes and listen to the video, and we'll continue the program.
favor, que salga. Que salga la luz.
Thank you. Thank you. We thought we'd show you that video because as we moved along with the program, it means a lot to us because it's the sample of the work that Juan and Gladys have supported over the years. You know, Juan Mendez spent over 10 years at the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance as over 10 years as our board chair. And so it was it's a very special thing that he did that. He was not just a PRA as a board chair, but really vested in the organization as a hands-on volunteer and a special donor. Gladys Mendez, his wife, was always behind this wonderful man. And I was also personally, and she was also personally invested in being an ongoing volunteer behind Juan's investment in the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance organization. We are here to recognize two community members that have given us so much time and commitment to PRA and their community in general. Juan and Gladys have been tirelessly and a valuable civic participant in the Puerto Rican and Latino community. I personally know some of their community involvement history, which over the course of more than 40 years have positively impacted our community. Folks, this has ranged from joining various nonprofit organizations, higher education boards throughout their careers, raising money for student youth scholarship, particularly through MHOA, mentoring Latin music project students, inspiring others to get involved in helping PRA, and even fundraising for past hurricanes in Puerto Rico. We wanted to pre-announce this name recognition virtually because of the challenges that the pandemic has put on all of us to gather in person in a larger setting. Our plan, however, is that we will be scheduling some future in-person reception with music, of course, and personally celebrate the naming of the Juan and Gladys Music Hall. The Juan and Gladys Music Mendez Hall name will be first placed in our existing recital hall, and in the future, it will be placed in a permanent space. Currently, PRA is working on a future building expansion. More news to follow as it becomes more formal. On the agenda this evening, our community guest speakers that includes Juan and Gladys's daughter, who incidentally are active at MHOA as MHOA leaders, some amazing and beloved music artists from Puerto Rico, close friends, a student of the Latin Music Project, and of course, you've seen one of our videos, and we have one more video to show you. The videos really are true examples of the work that both Juan and Gladys have supported. By default, as you can see, I am your MC this evening, and we'll move the program along. Each of the guest speakers that you're about to hear have been given around 2 to 3 minutes. They will be sharing their remarks regarding Juan and Gladys. Now I'd like to turn it over to our first guest speaker, Arnold Rivera.
My name is Arnold Rivera, and I want to thank Gladys, Tanya, Laura, and the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance for the honor of sharing a few short words about Juan and Gladys Mendez. Back when I was in college, introduced to Juan by my brother-in-law, Henry Rolon, who went to high school with Juan at Wells High School. I was thinking about going to law school, and Henry thought it would be a good idea to meet Juan, who was already an attorney with his own law offices. I met Juan, and needless to say, we hit it off right away. Juan became one of my mentors, and we began a lifelong friendship. I went through 3 years of law school. Juan was always encouraging me and introduced me to one of his former law professors, Art Scheller, who in turn became a mentor to me. Juan was always doing that, always building bridges from one person to the next, so that we in turn could be a bridge for the next person coming up. Juan and his connections he helped me build, and the encouragement were a big part of my success in law school. Juan became one of the boys and played basketball with us on Friday nights with me and my friends. And he would come to my parents' house and he would play dominoes with my father and the boys. And my father always liked him. And I can't say that about all of my friends. But when I got out of law school, with many of my classmates struggled to find jobs and make their way in the legal profession, I didn't have that problem. Juan made me a place for him in his law practice, and I hung up my own shingle and started my own practice, renting space from Juan. And this was over on North Avenue near Pulaski. For the next 4 years, we worked side by side every day. And as soon as I moved in, I also established a working relationship with Gladys. Juan and Gladys had just started a new business, Century 21 Data. And that was named after his two daughters, Tanya and Laura. So Juan was the broker and Gladys ran the office. Since Juan was in the capacity as a broker, he could not represent the seller or the buyer. So the business was referred to me. So my business immediately thrived. And my first closing was also Century 21 Data's first closing. My clients were Gladys's sister, Olga, and her husband. So the day of the closing, all 5 of us squeezed into Juan's car and we went to the closing. But it was actually Juan holding my hand throughout the whole process. So I have so many memories, and I can attest to the strong work ethic of both Gladys and Juan. And one day I was in the office and a gentleman knocked on the door, and I went to answer the door, and the man said, "Está licenciado? There's a lawyer here." And I said, "Pues yo soy el licenciado. I'm here." He goes, he looked at me, he said, "No, no, tu papá." And I said, "Okay, wait a minute." I went in the back to give Juan. I said, "Juan, there's a client out there and he's looking for mi papá." And Juan he looked at me with disbelief. But he was not amused anyway. But Juan was proud to be a lawyer and always conducted himself professionally. He taught me that it was important to speak correctly, to dress professionally, and to always be respectful. And respect is often forgotten nowadays, especially in the practice of law. So I'm thankful that Juan instilled that in me. As an attorney, Juan was well respected by all of his colleagues. In fact, he served time with the Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission, the body that regulates attorneys in the state of Illinois. And you cannot serve on that commission if there's any question about your integrity. And Juan's name has always been above reproach. Juan also helped many attorneys as they were starting out in various ways besides just renting office space. He was also a member of the Latin American Bar Association, and later he became a member of the Puerto Rican Bar Association, which we founded in 1995. Juan was proud to be Puerto Rican and supported all causes Puerto Rican and Latin American. And the beauty of our Puerto Rican culture was what led him to be part of the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance. For all of his accomplishments and accolades, however, Juan would not have been able to accomplish all he did without Gladys at his side. You can only imagine the sacrifices they made and the struggles they confronted to grow their businesses and to excel as they have. They raised a wonderful family and that has grown and they have wonderful businesses. And they work together first as a couple and then as a family. And, you know, I could attest to the experience of little Tanya and tiny Laura often walking the halls of Century 21 Data in the law offices of Arnold Rivera. So it's been a joy to see both Laura and Tanya emerge as such strong, capable business women. A joy, but not a surprise, considering their mom and their dad. My life and so many lives have been blessed by Juan and Gladys's friendship and their example. God for having put them in my path. They are so deserving of the honor being bestowed on them today. Thank you, Puerto Rican Arts Alliance, and God bless you all. Gracias, Carlos.
Thank you, Arnold. I'm glad you shared that story about the car story when they all squeezed in there, and also the legal profession. You know, I knew Juan after he had kind of retired as an attorney. He was more of a business person when I knew him coming on board at the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance. So all that background that you gave us is so great. And by the way, folks, we're recording this, and this is something that we'll memorialize on our page as well, this event here. But I want to go ahead and I'll turn it over to our next guest speaker, which is Emelindo Ruiz. Emelindo is a musician and has been featured in some of the programs at the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance. And I know that Emelindo had a very close relationship with Juan Mendez. Emelindo, can you share some of that with us?
Sure, Carlos, thank you so much. I want to say I'm honored to be included among the list of people who will be talking about Juan Mendez. I met Juan Mendez because of the place where I grew up. I grew up in San Sebastián, Puerto Rico. And in fact, we have in the chat some of the family of Juan Mendez who are from San Sebastián. Saludos a toda la familia de San Sebastián y de otras partes. But basically, I grew up swimming in the same rivers as Juan Mendez, probably like 50 years later. That's important too. And but I want to say first, I'm honored to be included here. I want to say what a great time always to be with Gladys Mendez, with Tanya and Laura, because we know when we talk about Juan Mendez, we talk about his family. And so today we are talking about all of them. And I want to say that I was thinking these days, like, what can I say? Because I knew that there were going to be other speakers, right? And I knew they're going to have a lot of anecdotes and stories about Juan. And I was trying to go around my memory and think of what is it that I can say about Juan. And then one thing hit in my head. And that is the commitment that Juan had for everything he was doing. And in some ways, I'm going to talk now about Juan Mendez, but in other ways, we're also talking about each person who is in this chat. So today, I'm just going to share very briefly what I think Juan Mendez left us through his mentoring, through his love, through everything he did for us. And when I think of Juan Mendez, his commitment, I'm gonna start very far from where we are here. But he was very committed to his country, and his country was both Puerto Rico and the United States. If we knew Juan, you knew what was happening both in Puerto Rico and in the United States. If we get closer, he was very committed to his community. He loved the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance, and we used to drive around the community trying to find ways in which he could help. If we get even closer with his family, Juan Mendez, basically, he's still today with us because of his family. So his family was for him everything, and he was very committed to it. I think this is all a learning that we can still today learn from Juan. So gracias, Juan. Gracias a Johnny. Wherever you are with us today because you taught us so much. And finally, if I get really, really close, it comes down to his personal life. I was very lucky to share with him a lot of personal time. And I knew he was always reading. He was always trying to improve. He was very humble. As Manuel said, he was also very proud of everything he had accomplished. So I'm just gonna finish by saying, Juan Mendez, we love you so much. And in some ways, the love we receive from you is the love we are still giving to the world. So thank you so much, Juan. And thank you, Carlos.
Emelindo, thank you so much for sharing your background with Juan with us. I wanted to just take a pause here and just mention that, you know, Juan would always say behind a great man is always a great woman. And Gladys Mendez was always there. And it's by no accident that we have named this music hall the Juan and Gladys Mendez Music Hall. And both of them were so connected to making great things happen. And to share some of those stories, I want to welcome our next guest speaker, Angelo Sanchez, a very old dear friend of Juan with a young heart. How about that?
Well, thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be here, and a pleasure to be in part of this group. As you know, Juan Mendez and I go back many years, but I think this is a well-deserved dedication to name Pras Music Hall after Juan and Gladys Mendez. Juan and Gladys mentored and provided leadership to many in the music project that Pra runs. They deposited tokens of wisdom and every time we listen to their words, and it is my belief that Gladys will continue to carry on that wisdom. Wisdom was his, that was Juan. I first met Juan and Gladys back in the 90s when I was the executive director of the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce. And I have never forgotten all the support that they gave us. They provided to us during the many organized events that Pra had, like the golf outing, the toy drive, scholarships, financial help to all the affected families in Puerto Rico when there were some storms there. If there was a fundraiser event, Juan and Gladys would always volunteer and help give their full support. I miss my conversations with Juan, and you know Juan liked to talk. Juan and Gladys would always volunteer. I'm sorry. I miss my conversation.
Do you want to from this way, pasta, pizza, whatever?
Sorry, especially the love they have for their family and others. Juan also loved mentoring young people about staying and about having a future. He also mentored business owners on how they could improve their and grow their business. I have something here. I wrote something here that it's not of my author, but I saw it somewhere. That there are human beings who bring a bright light to this world. Even after they are gone, that light remains lit. Let us carry on that light and do as Juan did, always loving, caring, helping others. Let's do that whenever we can. And I'm sure that Gladys will continue that, to have that light shining. Rest in peace, my brother Juanito, as I used to call him Juanito. Sorry. And Gladys, Carmen, and I will always be here for you and your family. We love you mucho, and may Pra continue to prosper in our community as they have been doing for the last 20 and some odd years. Well, thank you very much, and good night, everybody.
Thank you, Angelo, but don't leave on us yet, okay? Because we're saying good night, but I know you're still gonna hang out. We got some speakers here. It was Angelo who really created the bridge between the Mendez family and myself as founder of the organization. I first obviously got to know Juan, and then subsequently got to know the great woman behind this great man. And so Angelo, thank you for that. And Angelo, thank you for also being an early pioneer in establishing the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance as an organization, as a leading organization in our own community. But now I'd like to switch it around a little bit and have our next guest speaker, a family member actually, Tanya Lawrence, who is the daughter of Juan Mendez, say a few words. Tanya?
Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you to everybody for being here today. I'm Juan's oldest daughter, so there's two of us. And it's so funny to see Arnold, because I remember I had a speech prepared, which I'm going to go to, but I'm kind of like my dad, where I talk a lot. But I do remember all those times running through the office, and I pretty much lived in the office after school, after coming home from school from St. Philomena. So in any case, it's so nice to see everyone, even if it's just virtually. So I just really wanted to start by thanking everyone who makes PRA a success with all your donations of time and talent. As one of the early members of PRA and a former president, my dad, our father, Juan Mendez, he envisioned an organization that would keep our beautiful and rich Puerto Rican culture not only alive, but thriving here in our community. He was so proud of his Puerto Rican culture, he just wanted to share it with everyone. So he would invite everyone to the island so that they could personally experience its natural beauty, delicious cuisine, and welcoming hospitality. Growing up, I always remember our parents, Juan and Gladys, making our Puerto Rican culture part of our everyday lives. We lived in Chicago, but we never lost touch with those family roots in Puerto Rico. Today, as we join together to celebrate this dedication, I know that my dad is smiling down on us because he would never miss any PRA event. And not only because of the notoriety, that this brings, but because PRA was one of the most important things in his life. He absolutely loved the annual Cuatro Fest, with its beautiful musical celebration and the gathering of family and friends. You could always see the joy in his face when he heard and he saw the talented musicians that would work tirelessly to improve their craft. No matter the student's background or ethnicity, our dad would always be glowing when he witnessed the skills and talent of these young artists. Our parents always struggled, sacrificed, and took risks their whole lives, not just when they were a young couple, so that they could make a difference for our family and in the Hispanic community. So for those of you who may not know their whole story, our parents have always been entrepreneurs who have prided themselves on serving the Hispanic community. They owned and operated the private law practice that Arnold worked at, and the franchise real estate office, and then finally became McDonald's operators in 1991, all while providing my sister and I with the best lives that we could ever want or wish for. We never knew that there was a struggle. They always made everything seem easy, and everything they did was for the family. And though once we got older, we realized it was not easy at all. But they always taught us that family always comes first, no matter what. So, and then for us, that includes our McDonald's family. We could not be successful in the business that we are in now without the hard work, the dedication, and the devotion of our Mendez McDonald's team of managers, supervisors, our office staff, and our crew. And my dad, and my parents, they always embrace them as, because we're all family. So we just celebrated 30 years with McDonald's this past February, which is a true landmark for our family. And as proud Hispanics, our parents have always taught us to lend a helping hand to our fellow Latino. Our father was also the president of the National McDonald's Hispanic Owners Association for several years, where he would be an advocate for Hispanic operators across the country. He and the other McDonald's Hispanic operators on the national board worked to ensure that McDonald's understood the value of not only the Hispanic consumer, but equally important, the value of the Hispanic owners, managers, crew, employees, and vendors who have a massive and incredible impact on the McDonald's brand. Everyone needs a helping hand from time to time, and my sister and I were taught to do that for those who deserved a chance that they may have not otherwise had the opportunity to get on their own. Thank you for remembering our dad and for including my mom, who doesn't get the credit that she deserves, but in this dedication. They were married for 50 years and accomplished so much in their lives together. We continue with his legacy as PRA continues to expand and grow. We cannot be more proud to be their fortunate children who have always been loved and cherished like every child should be. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to you, Carlos, and thank you for this dedication.
Thank you, Tanya. You mentioned that your mom sometimes doesn't get all the credit that she deserves, but your dad made it a very good point of making sure that her name was always front and center at the Cuatro Festival, and making sure that he would credit her as well. So, and because I'm a living testimony of that, it's very easy for me to support the naming of the Juan and Gladys Mendez Music Hall. So I want to just say that. I also want to remind people. I know Virginia Martinez is in the room, and she was she's a lawyer by trade and also went to law school with Juan. Thank you for joining us, Virginia. And she's also put some comments on the chat. We're not going to get around to all of your comments, so we encourage you to put your comments in the chat because we'll be downloading that document as well. Now I'd like to just move it along and have there's a video that the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance did a number of years ago when the Cuatro Festival was dedicated for Juan Mendez. And we have that video, it's on our website. Many of you may have seen it, but I thought it'd be a good place for us to play it or replay it so that you can see it. Let's look at the video for a minute now.
Sound.
Technical difficulties, we'll get that going.
And the Fred Turner Golden Arches Award that he was awarded, I think about a year or so ago. What better testament than the family he has raised alongside Gladys Mendez, his wife of 40-some years, who herself is a beautiful human being. The two daughters they raised together, they too are business leaders, and they are now the ones that are carrying the torch.
I was there from the beginning. He and I remember Carlos started in his basement. Yes, and that was 20 years ago. Everyone that he comes in contact with, he touches, because Juan is a humanitarian. He's a great businessman. Wonderful human being and awesome friend. His love for the arts and for our culture, the Puerto Rican culture, that's what drives him. He's been involved in the community for many years. He's a person that gives without asking anything in return.
Juan was really a champion of saying, look, we have to put together an organization that has programming, that have events that represent the positive part of our culture. One of the things that Juan does in a very positive way is that he really believes in the youth, that there has to be hope for our youth in the city of Chicago, and that we have to develop and invest time in them. There are so many people who Juan Mendez have touched throughout his lifetime. And I only hope that this world would have more Juan Mendezes.
¿Cómo podemos que estos niños se sientan como nuestros hijos e hijas, que pierdan ese miedo para que puedan crecer hasta que uno vea a un niño entender o aprender, abrirle la mente? Uno no sabe lo que es una felicidad. Cuando uno ve eso, uno ha cambiado el mundo. Ese niño cambia el mundo. Y si podemos hacer eso diariamente, sería absolutamente fantástico. Un padre te da a ti su vida, pero solo puede darte lo que él tiene, no puede darte más. Ahí es donde personas como yo, como muchas de nuestras juntas de directores, muchos de los voluntarios de PRA, hemos trabajado. Me siento extremadamente feliz cuando puedo ayudar.
Well, that is a good segue to our next speaker, which is a student of Juan. Juan impacted so many youth throughout his years at the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance, and beyond that, he mentored a lot of students. And we have one of our very own, Isamari Medina, who is our invited students to share with you her thoughts on her and the impact that Juan had on her being a student at the Latin Music Project School. Isamari?
Okay, hi everyone. I'm not gonna take up too much time because I think what I have to say is pretty straightforward. So just like Carlos said, I'm Isamari and I'm a member of the Latin Music Project Ensemble. And to my understanding, I was brought here today just to talk a little bit about how Juan affected me as a student. And as I'm sure everyone here agrees, Juan was always like a very bright person, and the energy he brought into a room was always really positive, and he was always ready to help everyone. And he really believed in each student and their ability to be whatever they chose, even if that was or wasn't a musician. And that was kind of one of my favorite aspects of him. Like, he wouldn't give you a lesson or a lecture like about what you could or you couldn't do. He would just be supportive, and he would listen to our suggestions, like us being the students and the members of our ensemble. And one of the most vivid memories I have of Juan is how he always had snacks and drinks at any sort of meeting. Because I remember after ensemble rehearsal, we would go join our parents at the meetings, and he would encourage us to grab snacks. And he would say things like, go ahead, like grab some chips. And are you sure you don't want something to drink? And he'd point to the middle of the table, which was full of snacks. And if anyone here knows me personally, they would know that although picky, I'm a big food lover. So it just made me grow to love his hospitality and his positivity. And just seeing the way he believed in us was always just such a warm feeling. And seeing him behind the scenes, especially at things like the Cuatro Festival, it just kind of put a smile on everyone's face, especially when we were about to perform and he was wishing us luck. So I think it's safe to say that the impact that Juan had on everyone was something that like could never be forgotten. So although he's no longer with us, he will always be remembered. So thank you.
Thank you, Isamari. And I know that Isamari is going to continue her education in college, and she's moving along. That's part of the work that we do here at the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance. We impact over 15,000 students a year. Either we're giving them classes at different schools or at the Latin Music Project Center. And we thought Isamari could serve as an example of the great work that we're doing. So congratulations, Isamari, on continuing your education as well. I want to move the program along and now ask our next speaker here. I get a great artist, one of our great artists, Luis Sanz, who we have been very fortunate to have introduced him to Chicago as a great cuatrista. He's gone beyond, and now he's a professor at a university in Puerto Rico teaching music and continuing to compose music in Puerto Rico and write music. His name is Luis Sanz. Luis?
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and talk about a little about Juan and Gladys and family, and also the Prague community. I know that throughout this recognition, we are honoring a family that has dedicated its entire life helping others. And that's, yo sé que todo el mundo, ¿verdad? Lo hemos visto con nuestros ojos. So I am really grateful to the Prague community for continuing to highlight Puerto Rican values, culture, and honoring the Mendez family. I know that Juan did not like recognitions, but rather that I know that his teaching prevailed. And yo me acuerdo que siempre Juan me decía, Luisín, las cosas se aprenden viviendo y no existiendo, ¿verdad? Diferentes enseñanzas que él lanzaba a todo el mundo. Así que lo más importante de ¿verdad? De este nombramiento, de este espacio en donde Juan siempre visualizaba, es que each artist, artistic expression produced by a child, by a youth, or even an adult in this space that communicate and transmit what Juan and Gladys Mendez have taught us, a message of love, solidarity, and hope. So thank you, Carlos, for doing this, and besos y abrazos a todos.
Gracias, Luis. Gracias. Muchas gracias. You know, Juan and Gladys were such powerful individuals in terms of a history of their work in the community. They really impacted the lives of so many people throughout the years through their volunteerism and civic work. I just want to share with you that it's hard to find people like that, and when you have people with such a special heart, you kind of grab onto them. And Juan always would joke around with me and say in public, Carlos, ¿qué es lo que tú estás pidiendo ahora? Because que yo estaba pidiendo siempre. Pero Juan sabía que yo no pedía para Carlos Hernández. Juan sabía que yo pedía para los jóvenes, el futuro de nosotros. Como Gladys también lo sabe. Now I'd like to hear a little bit more about Juan. We'd like to hear more about Juan. And we have another family member, his second, the other daughter, Laura. Laura Herrera is with us here today. Laura?
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura. I'm Juan and Gladys's younger daughter. I just want to share with you how special my parents are and what a blessing it is and has been to have them in my life. So,
Take your time, Laura.
I'm going to cover for her for a little bit because that's what I do.
I got it. So my mom is truly just an amazing person through and through. She's always been there for me and my family, no matter what. She truly is a caretaker, and she always makes sure that everyone is okay. Whether it's friends or family, she's always there to help. Not only is she amazing at taking care of all of us, but she's a great example for us growing up. She always worked hard. She stayed active. She maintained a healthy lifestyle, and she raised us along with my dad. I know it wasn't always easy, but she never made it seem challenging. And I think my sister said the same thing. They never made anything seem hard. I'm so thankful to have my mom in my life, and I still call her all the time for advice. I know, lucky her. She gets to hear all my problems. And I really don't know what I would do without her. Now, moving on to my dad. My father and I, we had a very special bond that I can't even describe. We really just understood each other. Maybe not so much when I was a teenager, but as I got older, we just really understood each other a lot. Growing up and even as an adult, I always knew that my dad would always be there for me, no matter what. He would always stop whatever he was doing if I needed him for anything. So when he got sick, I had to make sure that I did the same thing. So I think most people know that my dad got really sick back in 2016. And there was actually a family area of the hospital in the ICU so that all the patients' families could hang out. But our family kind of took over that room. So everyone was always there, and we took over that ICU family space because everyone just wanted to visit him all the time. While we were there, someone in our family actually said to me that they said, "Your dad is like the mayor of our family." And I never thought of it that way because he was just my dad. But that was a very good way, I think, to describe him. So he was the person who always brought everyone together, and he always looked out for everyone. Now, when he got sick, my kids were just 1 and 2 years old, so my life was a little hectic at the time, but I made taking care of my dad a top priority. And that I wouldn't have changed a thing. So I thought we were close before everything happened, but we grew even closer in those last 4 years. I truly enjoyed taking care of him, whether it was days in the hospital or just taking him to doctor visits or taking him donuts donuts on Sunday mornings. He liked vanilla long johns, so I would drop them off for him. And then in those last 4 years with him, I just really watched him interact with so many people, and he really took an interest in everyone he met. He would find ways to just relate to people and lift people up. One time he was in the hospital and he had to actually share a room with someone, and he wasn't really happy about it. But by the time the guy was leaving the room, they had already exchanged phone numbers. The doctors and nurses who took care of him, they loved him and he loved them. He really loved them. My dad talked to everyone. He actually got his cardiologist to look up Hermelino Ruiz, who spoke earlier on the call. That's how deep in conversation they would get. And the doctor actually looked him up and looked up the music. And then there was also a phenomenal nurse named Peter, who my dad just adored, who would always take care of my dad. And he wanted to take Peter and his wife out to dinner. I'm not sure that ever happened, but that's just how my dad was. Then there were all the nurses who worked in the cardiac clinic of the hospital. My dad would go visit them at the hospital, even when he didn't have to be there, just because he was so appreciative of them and he just loved them so much. He would take them gifts. If one retired, he took her a gift. He knew how many kids they had. He knew their kids' names. He just really, really appreciated them and loved them, just like he does with everyone. So he had a genuine appreciation and love for people, animals, Puerto Rico, Puerto Rican culture, nature, and just life in general. He could see the good in people, and he wanted to make sure that they saw what he saw. And he wanted people to be happy and successful and just to apply themselves. I want to say thank you for letting me share a little bit of what it was like to have my parents in my life. I'm sorry I can't hold it together. And thank you for naming this music hall after them. They truly are so proud of their Puerto Rican culture, and this is a great way to honor them. Thank you, Carlos. So sorry.
Oh, that's great. You know, that Laura, thank you for sharing that deep love expression that you have for your parents with all of us. It's a really true testimony of the special people you have around your life, with your dad and your mom. And I love the way you kind of wove both of them together in your remarks, because it shows how important both of them are in the naming of the Juan and Gladys Mendez Music Hall. Now I'd like to bring another great artist that we have, un artista músico que quizá ustedes todos los conozcan. Ha estado con nosotros en el Festival del 4 y también se ha presentado en otros proyectos que hemos tenido aquí en el Puerto Rican Arts Alliance. Gran José Nogueras, por favor, si puedes compartir unas palabras con nosotros. You're on mute, tienes en mute. No te oigo. Ahora sí.
Saludos a todos. Para mí es un honor estar en este grupo de personas tan lindas, de personas de tanta trayectoria en en este darse, como Juan se ha dado en toda su vida, tanto en el aspecto profesional como en el personal. When I met Juan, that first day, he told me he was from San Sebastián, del Pepino. And all my family, in my mother's side, is from San Sebastián del Pepino. And one of my uncle, his name was Johnny, Juan Vega. And so the first moment that I met him, I recall that I called him Tio Johnny. And I don't know why it was so easy for me to say Tio Johnny than Juan Mendez. So I kept with Tio Johnny almost all the time that I was with him or talking to him or in whatever place we were together. That was Tio Johnny, and my wife, Maricel, used to call him Tio Johnny too. What I wanted to say about Tio Johnny has been said, but it doesn't matter because there's a great composer. She passed away a long time ago. Her name is Silvia Resach. And she said that everybody has the right to his own version. Cada cual tiene derecho a su propia versión. De las cosas de la vida. Tú puedes cantar del amor, pero Silvia decía que cada cual tenía derecho to sing love songs with his own version of love. So everything I would like to say has been said, really has been said. But I'm gonna make some points that for me are equally too important. The first thing that I was impressed, it was his humbleness, you know. And it's the same, when I think of Tio Johnny, I think of Tato Bien at the same time. I met them together, I saw them together, and Tato for me is like a twin, because they are both humble, they are both, they give themselves without looking for anything in return. As a matter of fact, they have a lot to give, like Johnny and Tato. So what we did was, from Johnny was receive. And like Luisito said, he was a wise man. He was a lawyer, he was that and that, but he was wise. You can be a lawyer, a good lawyer, you could be a good empresario de diferentes negocios, but not necessarily be wise, you know? And he was wise. And he was always saying things that were important to keep for life. I'm 70 years old, but I'm still receiving wise consejos. Tato is an expert in that, in things that we really need in life to appreciate what is important to appreciate. And the second thing that I was impressed by Tio Johnny was, I don't know how he kept that Puerto Rican thing, el jíbaro que tenía dentro, it looks like he just moved to Chicago 10 years before I met him, because he was so jíbaro. He was a La Mancha, like they said that you cannot take the mancha, the plantain mancha was too strong, He was too jíbaro. In every way he behaves. And I said, Elizabeth, can we live in Chicago all this year with all the culture, American culture, and all this cold and all the thing, and you be so, I say, wow, this is special, man. Then I start looking at his warmness with my wife, with me, the kindness of a brother, so I think it's first of all honor to be here, and secondly, I think it's good that Gladys and Tiayoni's name be kept in something that it will be treasured through the years, and when none of us is around, that will be around, saying and letting know to every child or Jews that go to exposure his art or learn his art in that way, that he will be proud in heaven for Johnny, Gladys, me, and everyone, that we will be going. Life is like that, circles. And when we are not here, all the things gonna be kept. I'm gonna be talking about Juan and Gladys Mendez.
Thank you, Jose Noguera. You know, Jose has performed at the Cuadro Festival, as I mentioned before. And so we're very privileged to have him here. I learned a lot from Jose himself. You know, Jose is the author of Dame la mano paloma, right? Dame la mano paloma. And he's also the author of Amada Mia, right? So he's a great author, composer of music, and we're very blessed to have him here, just like we have Luis and Emelindo. But, you know, I did see Roselyn Pabon, the emeritus conductor of the Puerto Rican Symphony Orchestra. He is here, and I don't know if Antonio can spotlight him. If he's available, I'd like him to say a few words. Roselyn, are you there? Just a few words. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, here we are. Let me first say hello, and well, you know, I'm really so happy that this is happening. I never, you know, I am a latecomer. I just met Juan about 5 years ago. You know, I just met him, and when I came to Chicago to perform for the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance, a concert we did at the Clemente High School, right? That's where we, with the Chicago Lyric Opera. You know, when you don't need very much time to meet, to realize that a person is very special when they are, you know? And that's what happened to me with Juan. Those who have reached such high levels of professionalism and education, businesses, but they still don't forget their roots. They still are their beginnings. They still are really sincere and attached to their origin. And Juan impressed me so much for being that kind of human being. You know, you go to Chicago and you go to New York, and we always think the Puerto Ricans over there, you know, they're on the other over there, and we're here. And when you meet people like Juan and many of our friends in Prague, you realize how much more Puerto Rican they are than we sometimes are here, you know. And it opens our eyes, and it makes us, and it gives us hope that doesn't matter diversity, doesn't matter all the struggles we have to go through to make it. When you have made it in such a difficult environment, especially at the time that Juan went there and started growing in a different society, in a different culture, in a different language, and becoming so successful, but never forgetting what he was and his people, and then giving so much to the community to keep that alive, to keep it growing, like someone said a while ago, to keep it happening, like through organizations like the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance. That's very commendable. So I think that naming the hall, you know, for Gladys and Juan is very special, because every time some music is performed there, some classes are taught, some activity goes on related to cultural development and to enriching the lives of youth, of our youth in Chicago. Juan is an homage to him. You know, it's a recognition to what he had done for all these years in Chicago. So Gladys, like I said, I met Juan just not very long ago, but I want to tell you something very special.
Okay.
I had a dream. I dreamed of him about 2 months ago.
Oh man.
I had a dream with him, and he was standing just like in the video that we just saw. And he was smiling at me. He was smiling at me, and he was just smiling at me. And I woke up and I said, "Why am I dreaming about Juan Mendez?" You know, but that's something that is like they say in good American, food for thought. He impacted he impacted me too, also. You know, what I saw there happening in Chicago, and what I saw of their activities you guys with the Alliance did after the hurricanes and after all these terrible things that we have to face in the past years. So I think the Juan and Gladys Mendez recognition with the hall is, you know, it's very special for a very special person and for very special people. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to express myself, and to Pra for giving me the opportunity to come there and share my talent with the Chicago community.
Thank you, Rosalín Pavón. What Rosalín hasn't shared with you is that he just recently recorded a concert here at the Harris Theater that's called From San Juan to Chicago, Un Puente Musical, which is going to be streamed on August 17th. It's a concert, it's a classical music concert with highlighting great composers and author of Puerto Rican music, classical music, and popular music, which we're going to be featuring. So I encourage you, August 17th, look at our website and get the link, because it'll be, the Harris Theater is going to air it. I also want to take the opportunity and mention two board members who have joined us since we started this event. That's Eduardo Camacho, who was for many years vice president of the, still on our board, but also vice president of under Juan Mendez leadership, vice president of the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance, and Monica Diaz, who is now currently our vice president, who has joined us. The next thing is we want to share with you is the story of the person who we're paying homage to this evening. Remember, this is going to be called the Juan and Gladys Mendez Music Hall, and unfortunately we don't have Juan, but we have Gladys, and Gladys is here joining us. Gladys, I want you to sort of take us through a closing here, and I'll say a few remarks right after you say some words.
Thank you,
Please,
Carlos.
please mute
Thank you.
yourself. You go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for being here and for all the kind words, and it's really appreciated. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. As you can imagine, I'm very emotional and very humble as I sit here. I know Juan is by my side, as he was for so many years in our lives and during so many unforgettable moments for which we were blessed, and I am so grateful to have shared with him. You know, many people knew Juan as a friend. He was a true friend to so many people, and some people knew him as a community leader and as a successful businessman. But I knew him, and my family knew him as a loving, kind, devoted husband, and a very amazing and proud dad and granddad. And I know him, and I believed him to be the most amazing, compassionate, and bravest man that I've ever known. He lived his life that way, and he died that way. He was our treasure and a shining light. He'll live in our hearts forever. Juan had many friends. He was friend to many people, and he was always willing to help others. He was kind, he was compassionate. And so we shared him with a lot of people. We shared him with Pra a lot. And on this occasion, it's so meaningful, and because he was really dedicated to this organization and its mission. And, you know, he was driven by his pride and his love for Puerto Rico and the Puerto Rican culture and the Puerto Rican people. And he wanted to just showcase everything about Puerto Rico. He was a very proud Puerto Rican man. In addition to that, he also he had respect and he had admiration for the people that came here from the island before we did, the people that sacrificed and struggled and made it a better place to live for all of us. And he wanted to recognize that. He never forgot them. So that was part of his passion and his drive. But in addition to that, he had a passion for the importance of education, of educating our young people, of to support them and to guide them, and to help them along, and with mentoring, which he loved to do, providing role models for these young people, and also to provide means for them, to obtain means for them to be able to go to school and get an education and be the leaders of tomorrow. He didn't do any of this for personal gain or for self-recognition. He was very humble, but he did do it out of love, because for him, love was everything. I was what he did for everyone, and he believed that love conquered all. He was very happy to be involved with Puerto Rican Arts Alliance. He was very proud of it, and he was always striving to make it better. I remember when I was volunteering with Bra, and I had asked him, this is before he was really involved in it, and I asked him to help out the volunteer group because his leadership was so important, and he was a great leader. So I said, you know, we can use the help. And he said, I'm going to get totally involved, but only if the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance takes this National Cuatro Festival, it wasn't known as a National Cuatro Festival yet, if they take this festival to the best theaters in the city. Because I want this, if I'm going to be involved, I want it to be the best, because this is for our Puerto Rican culture, our Puerto Rican people. And, you know, after he said that and we pursued it, we owe it to him that we took the Cuatro Festival to the Chicago Theater. And it was a great success. And he said that he would be personally responsible if it didn't work out. And so he was always very proud to say that Puerto Rican Arts Alliance was the best and the classiest organization in the Puerto Rican community of Chicago. And I think he had earned those bragging rights. When Juan left us, he was still working continuously every day and striving to move forward. And he was working on future endeavors, and he wanted all these accomplishments. He was working right alongside Carlos and the board. He never gave up. And, you know, I'm just so proud of him for all of that. And he's no longer with us, but his legacy lives on, his spirit lives on. And so let's all go forward and let's continue this great work to honor his legacy. And he will still be a shining light here for all of us. My thanks to the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance, to Carlos, to the board of directors for this recognition. It's with great honor and great pride that I accept it. And I thank every one of you here tonight that have participated, and everyone watching. And I thank you for your love and your support. Thank you all.
Thank you, Gladys, for
Thanks,
those
Gladys.
kind words. We should applaud. I wanted to say a couple of things before we close. You know, as Gladys was speaking, I remember a story that I want to share with you, because I think this is very important, what I'm about to share. Organizations are made of people who invest time, volunteer, people who pour out their hearts and give financially as well. And Juan did both. But I want to share something without giving away too much information, personal information on the financial and giving part. We did a capital campaign. We started like 12 or 13 years ago, a capital campaign to repurpose an old Chicago Fire Station building, which is the building that we're currently in, to be our center, our cultural center, which we now call the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance Cultural Center. And we had a different type of board, and Juan came, and he wasn't even board chair at the time when he joined our board. And it came to the board was having a discussion about their responsibility of giving. And our then board chair, Edward Maldonado, said something to the effect, you know, I really believe in this, and I want this to happen. And Ed was a curator at the Chicago Cultural Center, a person of modest means. And he said, you know what, if this means that my wife and I can take a trip or two in the next year, we're going to forego that. And his story touched Juan so much that Juan went home to Gladys. And Juan, and forgive me if I share this, Gladys, but I think this is a great story to tell. Juan went home to Gladys and said, you know, honey, because he mentioned it to me the way he mentioned it there, honey, I just came out of a board meeting. The Puerto Rican Arts Alliance is going to be involved in the capital campaign, and I think we should give, and here's what I think we should give. And Gladys saw so much excitement and emotion in him, and Gladys told him, honey, if you believe so much in this project, I think we should think of a different number. Just a little bit more. If we're going to feel this and we really want to give to the Puerto Rican artists, we need to give a little bit more just to where it hurts us. And their giving was increased on the capital campaign, and where the lead individual donors for our existing building here. I share that story with you because the Puerto Rico, here we are 23 years later of our starting this organization. We haven't really announced any capital campaign, but Eduardo Camacho is one of my board members here. We and I were working in the board, and Manuel Cuevas and Monica Ignacio know that we're in the stages right now of creating some additional space at the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance, a space that will have a permanent space for our music hall. Right now, what we're going to be doing is that the existing space that we have, which is across the street from our center, our fire station building at US Bank, we have our music program there. We have a recital center. And we wanted to sort of do a soft mentioning here to you and to tell you that we want to honor Juan and Gladys Mendez by naming the existing hall that we have as a Juan and Gladys Mendez Music Hall at US Bank, but that plaque and that name is going to carry over to our future expansion space where the music hall will be permanent. And that's important for the Puerto Rican community, that's important for the Latino community, because it is time that we show some equity and also inclusion of our own names being instilled in culture institutions like the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance. And I'm just happy to share that with you. Everything, it's not done yet. And I know that Eduardo is working behind the scenes and try to make that happen, but we have a goal here. It is something that we're transitioning. And it is our way of creating an imprint of our own community and leaving their names, leaving institutions like the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance and the people in the community who have made a big, major impact in the United States, in the Latino community, in our case, the Puerto Rican community. That is going to be a big deal in Chicago. It is going to be a big deal because we're showing and demonstrating to the world that in our own community, we have great civic leaders like Juan and Gladys, and that they are civic leaders, and not just with their volunteerism, but also their financial contribution. So as we unfold and we roll out more information, we'd like you to sign up to be on our mailing list and consider yourself as being a supporter of the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance, because we're doing something very special here in the future. I want to thank all of our guests for joining us this evening, our speakers as well, and taking time from your busy schedule to be here an hour and a half with us. It was supposed to be an hour, but we're an hour and a half, but I'm looking at the numbers here, that 39, and it's been fluctuating between 39 and 41 people. And I know people look at that. So it goes to show you there has been some interest in here. We're keeping yourself. Even our board chair had an important meeting. He must have canceled it and rescheduled his meeting, but thank you, Manuel, for sticking with us as well. All of you have shared some powerful stories that speak to the Juan and Gladys legacy. That is, I really want to thank all of you, and you should be applauded for doing that. So thank you, everybody. Commercial break. Before you leave, I want to thank US Bank, MHOA, our board of directors, our staff, and our Latin Music Project Center. I know our director from Michael Scott is here. A music program director is here, who's working on the program. We have Noche Caribeña coming up August 14th at Navy Pier. We hope to see you there. It's a free event. And we also have the Cuatro Festival, which is scheduled this year for Friday, November 5th at the Harris Theater. We hope that we don't continue to roll back on the pandemic and be in the same situation we were last year. We are moving and planning to have an in-person gathering at the Harris Theater, and we hope that this will happen. And again, another reminder, August 17th, from San Juan to Chicago, we will be having our concert stream by the Harris Theater. The link will be on our website. So please, it's already on our website. So please, please join us. Thank you everyone for being here and for being so gracious. And remember that we did this to get the word out as an announcement. As we open up and reopen, we will be having a celebration, hopefully an in-person celebration for this naming of the Juan and Gladys Mendez Music Hall at our center. And it'll happen, and there'll be a series of concert, and there'll be a series of promotions and marketing that we will do to show Chicago and the rest of our community and beyond our community that this is happening in Chicago. Thank you very much for being here this evening. Thank you again for the speakers, our guests, and thank you for the Mendez family for showing and sharing your emotional, and very powerful stories with all of us. Your work and your civic involvement means a lot to the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance and the children of this community.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your love and support.
Bye-bye.
Okay, buenas noches a todos.
Buenas noches a todos.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Saludos, felicidades.
Buenas noches, Carlos. Buenas noches a todos.
Buenas noches, buenas noches.
Buenas noches, gracias a todos.
Un abrazo, fuerte abrazo.
Abrazo, gracias a todos.